Just invite new knowledge and thinking and ideas into your life by actually physically moving old ideas out of your house. I'm Diana and I'm here to take you on a 10-minute guided declutter of your bookshelf today. I used to have almost 3 times as many books as I have now. It took me about 4 months to actually declutter most of our books, I would say about 65%. And I distilled what I learned from these 4 months into just a quick 10-minute video. So by the end of this video, you will also have the tried and true, super easy steps and repeatable habits of how to squash that silent to read list for good. To get started, I want to declare this a guilt-free and totally frictionless zone. Not fictionless, frictionless. Do that with me here. For 5 minutes, let your guilt climb off your back, climb out of the shadows, shake it off, roll your shoulders back, and imagine yourself gliding smoothly and easily through this practice. If a nagging thought or someone else's voice pops into your head, and that's really important because usually we're pleasing someone else whilst we're holding on to things, just acknowledge it graciously and kindly put it away. This is your precious time and I'm here to help you. So you'll need a Sharpie, a bag, or an empty box. Label it donate, give away, say thank you next on it so you know that you can declutter as you go into this empty vessel. That means that I don't touch an item twice. Once it's in the box, I don't rummage through the box again. It's sort of ready for me to take the next step and get it out of my life. So step Number 1, I see books in 4 different categories. Usually they land in the first 2. First would be education. I think this counts as cookbooks, reference books, guidebooks, travel books, anything that you think is nonfiction and will help you reach a different goal. Just something very specific to a hobby or a goal or a time in your life that you needed to up your game, and it wasn't enough just to ask someone about or look on the internet. You found a lot of value taking this book and letting it be in your life. So first I would look at all your books that serve that educational aspect and ask, have you cracked it open within the last year? If you haven't, and you usually go online anyway, just let go of it. Would you buy it again in this moment at the same price that you bought it at then? Because maybe you outgrew it, maybe you learned and it actually served its purpose and you're ready to move on from that knowledge. Make space in your life, just invite new knowledge and thinking and ideas into your life by actually physically moving old ideas out of your house. Ask yourself, did you buy this as a motivational tool? Maybe you didn't even read it, but it's just serving as something, a reminder, something that you think will help you get to your goal. Is that still the priority in your life? If it is, keep the book around. But if the book is merely taking up space and being that little guilt trigger or reminding you of how you aren't reaching that goal or moving yourself towards that goal, I would say it's leaning towards being a more negative influence on your life than it is positive, and you could probably be doing something a little bit more active than letting that one book be your only motivator. Let's say you bought a Paleo 101 book and you're interested in getting a different diet on hand and a different lifestyle and eating more raw, whole foods. You could start a food diary or actually talk to a nutritionist or do more things that are more active and help you reach that goal faster or more effectively than just having a book of recipes that you really aren't interested in because maybe they take too long or the ingredients are a little bit hard to find. That is just a reminder of how you're not reading it. There's so many different and better ways that you could be achieving your goal than by having a book in your house. Are you keeping this book for a possible future? Just like that Paleo 101 example, maybe you bought this book and you said, actually, I really know that I'm going to need this for future studies or maybe for school, but it's just not here yet. So just give yourself a very concrete deadline for when to reevaluate this book. Now, the second category, and probably the biggest category, at least for me, because I'm such a fiction lover, that books fall into is for entertainment. Literature would count, children's books would count, all the beautiful genres of fiction, as well as magazines and things that are just meant to take you into a little space of escape. This category is actually pretty easy for me. I asked myself 2 questions. Have I finished reading it and have I not finished reading it? If I haven't finished reading it, and I honestly can't even remember the plot, let alone tell you all the names of the main characters, I think it's ready to go. If I know that my local library probably has a copy of this book too, that's another reason to just let it go. If I have read the book, however, and I'm keeping it around because it was such a good book and it was something that really was mind-blowing, or it changed my life and it was really special to me in the moment and it brought some joy to me in the moment and I remember it every time I see it, I must remember as well that everything that I already absorbed from that book, that memory, that feeling, it's manifested in me. It's not actually in the book anymore. The book is kind of a dead object to me because I already lived through it once and it's kind of dead to me. It served its purpose. So actually leaving that book, letting it go, it's not going to change my relationship to that story or to those characters. Blocking myself from maybe having another book enter my life that's just as magical, especially in this time in my life. I recommend sending it to a friend that you know would actually love it, writing a personal little note, why, everything you loved about it, say why you think they would like it, and send it in the mail. Reconnect with them, ask how their parents are, how their dog is doing. I think it's a lovely little gift that people often don't think about because we just don't give physical gifts in this way anymore. We don't like to re-gift. We always give something that's new and fresh from the store. But have you ever considered sending a book that, and it means a lot because you read it and you had a great experience, it's that word of mouth thing. I think that's just a really special way to reconnect with a friend. And you know that the book will be going to a better home or a home that you know is pretty good, and you guys can reconnect and talk about it afterwards. It's like your own little personal book club. It's gonna be fun. Let's pause. You might have already come across a couple exceptions in your collection of books here. Exceptions, pickles, little toughies, whatever you want to call them, they will always exist. So acknowledge them just like you acknowledge the voice in your head that pops up. Maybe someone else's voice started churning in your head and you started thinking and following a path that wasn't immediately in front of you. Just take a beat, acknowledge that, acknowledge the book, and just say, I'll set you off. You can be an exception for now, but I will revisit you when I declutter my books again in about 6 months or so. Just set it aside. Don't let it interrupt your flow today. This is really precious, dedicated, and disciplined time of focus and listening to your own thoughts in the moment and what you need now. So for example, back to those books that provide entertainment, if you really are finding it hard to let go of a certain book, even though you know your friend would really love it and you have finished reading it and you just can't seem to part with it, maybe consider just rereading it. Maybe it'll spark something new in you and you'll have a rejuvenated relationship with it. There's nothing wrong with keeping it around, but I think having books that are active partners in your life, I think that's really, really special. Books love being read, right? Like they beg to be read. So if you read it again, maybe you'll find that halfway through you're just not interested in it again, and that's a good time to let it go. Moving on to the last two categories, and these are a little bit harder. One would be decor. Are you keeping a bunch of books around because they look good in your house? There's nothing wrong with that. I know that people buy books based on spine colors, or ask yourself honestly if you want to continue having this type of decor, wrapping the spines with some other color, just switching it up. How can you repurpose this just to see if the books are still valuable to you as an object, as an art aesthetic object? Or would you rather declutter them and let something maybe a bit more sentimental be there, or just let negative space into your life? It's good to acknowledge them for what they are. They are just bound paper. Is it that meaningful to you? And if it's not, consider making something and placing something in plain sight that is more valuable, that has some sentimental value. That leads me perfectly to our very last category, sentimental books. Now, I would love for you to think back on the person that a sentimental book is reminding you of. Maybe they have passed, maybe they're still around, but you've disconnected. Complex and emotional kind of bundle around this book every time you see it or pick it up or think about it. Can you take a picture of it? Can you record your favorite passages out of it? Or better yet, can you memorize certain passages? Can you somehow awaken it and keep it alive in your memory? I think this is so much more meaningful than keeping a physical object, especially if you can pass it all along orally to your kin, to your friends, to really recount and paint the story of why it's so important to you. Because people can detect the emotion in your voice, they can detect why you care more about something just by the way you speak about it. And what I mean by that is if I tell you a really short story and I talk about the weather and the color of the sunset, you can already kind of picture it. You know that I really care about maybe being outdoors and always looking at the horizon and being part of nature. But if I just showed you a picture of a sunset, you wouldn't know what it meant to me or why I was outside. There's no context. Simply by extracting parts of that book, turning it into an oral tradition, maybe you go into storycorps.org and even record it for someone. I think there's a really great way to keep it alive without keeping the physical object. I know it's hard, but may the person you're thinking of rest in power. Make it an active memory. See if you can do yourself a favor and let that book go. Just two things that I like to keep in mind as I declutter absolutely anything. I think of these each time. I do live with my partner, and so I don't declutter anything that isn't mine, that isn't under my sole purview to get rid of. I can declutter something that maybe we both own, or maybe a food object that we both own, but I would feel bad without consulting them. And you can consult them, but I think it's good to make that a communal activity and just to let this time, especially if it's only 10 minutes, let it just be yours. So only declutter what's yours. The second kind of rule of thumb, the cardinal rule of thumb, is to declutter only. Do not start organizing, don't start color coding, Dewey Decimal System, exactly what you're doing, where the books are going, make those choices, be decisive and really disciplined, then treat yourself if you like it, color coding all the spines, aligning them, making sure that all your books are dusted off. You know, the aesthetic part can come after, and that can be kind of your cool down, your mindful cool down, or your anticlimax. If you liked these tips, I highly recommend you going onto slowgaze.com right now, because I have a free downloadable PDF. It's a digital guide that has all these hard-hitting questions but goes a little bit deeper. It's a true insight into more questions you can ask. It goes deeper into different categories and genres of books, and I think it's a really great little manifesto of how you can declutter your books easily and effectively every single time. So go onto slowgaze.com. I did create this free for you. There's really no strings attached. I asked my Instagram followers on Slowgaze, I said, hey, what is the hardest thing for you to declutter? And I resoundingly heard books. So I knew that this was something that people wanted, and if that interests you, just head over to slowgaze.com. That also is located down below. I've linked it in the description box. Head over and download your free PDF. If you have successfully completed this 10-minute declutter, brava! I'm so proud of you. Please give this video a like, share it with your bookworm friend, especially ones with sentimental tendencies. I know you have one. Share this video, help them out. I would also want to know if you have discovered a tip whilst you're decluttering, share it with this community. We are all here as slow gazers. We're all here to support each other, and no matter how big or small you think that your impact was today, just know that you made one more step towards your goal today, and that is really something to celebrate. You are in control of manifesting your future right here, right now. So thank you so much for spending 10 minutes with me. I will see you on my next declutter video. Adios.